Recently, I got the opportunity to be the first guest on A Day in the Hangar, a new podcast by Blue Shift and Densuo talking about Maxi Boost On and providing a place for players to talk about their best suits. The full podcast is close to 2.5 hours long because we didn't just talk about the HFX, but also the XS and even more general topics like picking a suit to play and mindsets to have while learning the game. This video is an edited version of just the HFX discussion with my closed beta casual games with the HFX played over top. Where possible, I included any clips of things I'm talking about to give a visual on top of the information that I'm already saying. I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast, link in the description, if you want to hear about all the other things we talked about and not just the HFX. But for now, enjoy this showcase of the HFX.
Okay, so Nitsuano, you can introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Nitsuano, but really, both you guys and anyone else can just call me Nits. It's easier, shorter. I've been playing Gundam since Full Boost. On and off as of recent, I had a move over the past 2 years, and since then I've had a downgrade in internet connection. I haven't been able to play too much Gundam, but I'm making do with what I can, which is why I'm trying to lean into the content creation angle now. While I have all this free time, may as well do something with it. I'm here to talk about Age FX, which is easily my favorite suit. So I picked Age FX based off of design. I actually didn't watch Age before I started playing the suit in Japan, but after playing the suit and after liking it so much, I decided to go watch Age. And as much as people dislike it, I actually genuinely really like the show. But that's completely unrelated to Versus.
So I was thinking, go ahead and play the video on the stream so people can watch it. Okay. And while it's watching on the stream, we can have Nitz go over the basics of the suit for us and give us his opinions and all that good stuff. So first things first, I do notice that its main seems to be an always reloading shot. It does have a CSA. Now, this suit, let me just ask a couple of questions too. How easy is this suit, would you say, for a beginner player?
I'd say it's actually fairly easy. It's bare bones weapons, like just in its main form, because I should mention it has two forms. It has the regular and then the FX burst mode. Its regular form attacks are all fairly standard. It's got a beam rifle, it's got an assist, it's got funnels, it's nothing too complicated. It's got a fast fall, just one fast fall. There's not a very high skill ceiling, I'd say, and then once you go into FX burst, the suit flips, and it still is fairly easy to understand. It's an aggressive melee suit with some decent self-defense options, but again, all overall very easy to understand and easy to figure out what you're supposed to be doing at what parts of the
Is FX mode when the green funnel thing starts glowing blue?
Yes, that is either activated when you're at yellow health or lower, or when you burst, like most other form change suits like Banshee and such.
All right. So that mode, you said it turns it into a melee specialist?
Yes, the suit has a couple of its buttons change, and it gains a lot more melee prowess. It has higher damaging melee combos, harder to cut melee combos.
And do you know it's like a bit of a range difference in comparison to the normal mode, or?
I don't really notice a whole lot in terms of range difference. You're still trying to play around the same range anyway, and most of its buttons, like its beam rifle, it changes at least visually. I haven't been able to determine much of a difference between the beam rifles. It probably increases the power a little bit, but beyond that, I haven't noticed much in terms of beam rifle, either range or anything of the sort, changing when you go into FX burst.
And
all right, now, go ahead, Blue, go ahead.
So, I guess I might be jumping ahead a bit, but what would you say would be the preferable burst for this kind of suit? I know they're using Extend, but I'm just wondering what would be the best way to optimally use.
Yeah, I'm using Extend, and it can definitely go, I'd say, either in Extend or fighting. The FX does not benefit from shooting burst really at all, because once you burst, you're locked into FX mode, and at that point your only ranged weapons are your main and your C funnels, which aren't very good things to start spamming with the shoot burst reload timer. So melee is good because, or fighting burst is good because once you go into FX mode, your melee that already got stronger gets even stronger. So if you know that you want to do some swings in the match, if you want to suddenly shift the match immediately into your team's favor, maybe Fighting Burst is what you'd want to use. However, I use Extended Burst because I go for the more versatile and self-defense nature of HFX.
Mm-hmm.
The HFX has a pretty good number of buttons that can help it in self-defense. It has a counter. It's got an assist that you can throw out just before you're getting hit, and most of the time it'll break you out of it. It's even got a shield assist on an entirely different button, and a panic getaway button that just kind of launches you in a direction wherever you need to go. It's very prickly, so having it in Extend Burst allows me to fluctuate very easily throughout the match. If something bad's going on, like if my partner ended up getting double locked and he died before me, I can just back off immediately. If I need to make a quick push, but I have a half burst or an extend burst, that's fine. I can burst, get into FX burst, make a play, back off once it wears off.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So overall, even though you feel that Fighting Burst would be good for it, you still feel that optimally, or at least for your playstyle, you would go with Extend Burst.
Absolutely.
So you did mention the FX mode as being a strength of the suit, but let me ask you something: is there any mechanic or tool that the suit has that you don't like?
Ooh, that I don't like. I did mention it has a getaway button when it's in regular mode. It's BC assist when you hit in any direction. So if you do it neutral, the Dark Hound comes out and spins its little wire thing as a shield. But if you hold in any direction, he'll grab onto the Dark Hound when it's in plane mode and fly in that direction. While it's good to kind of quickly get out of situations, I have a hard time figuring out proper times to use it where optimal movement is just better. I wouldn't say necessarily I hate the button, but it is definitely a little difficult to get used to and compared to just trying to use your regular movement to avoid things.
Okay, that sounds sensible.
And another thing I probably want to ask too, what would we say would be the most effective range for HFX in general? I know you mentioned that it's not as strong, but I guess if you're playing against a suit that has a lot more range options to counter it, what would you say would be the best way to work around?
Interesting you mentioned that because in preparation for this, I decided to take a look at the wiki for HFX, something I've never looked at before today, to see maybe what they had on the suit, if it was anything different from what I thought. And I noticed that they did mention that the suit does struggle a little bit versus range heavy suits, namely the EXS was mentioned on the wiki as a suit that it could struggle against. Because when it's not in FX Burst, like I said, it's got very simple buttons that can work to its pros, but it also to its downside. You don't have a whole lot you can do in that form. You're struggling to make plays. If you have, I'm sure you have the match footage going right now. While I'm in regular mode, a lot of the confirms I'm getting and a lot of the big hits I'm getting are from the CSA. Just landing good CSA landing punishes is honestly how I feel to be an optimal way to move around and play when you're in FX, regular FX. So when you're against suits that have guns that outgun you, you're gonna have to leverage your teammate a little bit to try and get an opportunity to get in if they're walling you out too hard, or use your burst to get in with FX burst.
Gail asked a question. The HFX has a certain buff in burst mode that has the funnel circle you for a little while. What's the purpose of that?
Yes, so once you activate FX burst, you'll have an empty on your up weapons gauge, and that's going to slowly start to refill as you play throughout the FX burst. The refill takes just long enough that if you, I think, full extend burst, you will just barely not be able to have it go out. But that is your shield. So it functions mostly like the Keradim shields or the Excelia shields, where you can just put them on yourself or you put them on your teammate and they block a couple shots. So really, you can use that like you would any other suit. Just put it on yourself if you need it, your teammate if you need it. But you can also put it on yourself and then do the dash, the AC dash that the FX Burst HFX gets. And the combination of the shot guard from the dash as well as the protection from the shield makes you, I'd say for the most part, nearly unstoppable unless you get countered or stepped out of the way. You can't really get shot at to stop you from coming because I remember there was a weird property about the shield, and I think it was it blocked explosives, which shields like that typically didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and notably the shot guarded dash doesn't block explosives. So if you
Oh.
do that at a suit, even if they were bazooka you, beam rifle you, you'd go right through and continue with your melee combo.
Yeah, that's an interesting property. Probably a lot more resilient than Quanta's, but still has its applications.
Yeah, but like I said, it has its time. It takes time to actually get to it. You have to get to FX burst, and then you have to stay alive while you're in FX burst for a non-minimal amount of time. Like it's actually a pretty substantial amount of time you're gonna have to wait to get that shield up.
Mm-hmm. It's just very situational at times, from what I'm gathering.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the limited access to it, it can feel like it's fairly situational.
So I'm actually gonna throw one more at you. Actually, speaking of which, the going by what you're telling me, it sounds like it's pretty decent. Okay, it can hold its own at range, but then in melee range, is that where it really wants to be then? Like mid
If you're
to
in
close?
FX burst, yes. If you're
Okay.
not in FX burst, though, absolutely not. The suit's regular form melee is okay to abysmal. It doesn't do a whole lot, though it does notably have a shot guarded 8B, which is not irrelevant. I think
Shot guarded
actually,
8B. I'm
Yep.
sorry,
yeah,
what do you
shot
mean by
guarded
that?
8B, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can explain that a little bit. So just holding forward and attack, he'll dash forward a little bit with the seed funnel circling in front of him. So anything that shoots you when you're like that will just get absorbed, and then you'll just follow into a light melee attack. It doesn't combo into itself. You actually gonna have to step and then continue your melee combo if you land the shot guarded hit. But it does have it.
Yeah, it looks like Blue just highlighted the stream
Yep.
right now, actually. Okay, because I think you looked like you landed that in the video, actually.
Yeah, actually, one of those 3 matches, I did hit a shot guarded melee.
I see like he's holding the beam saber to the right side, and then there's like a circle kind of thing in front of him.
And it seems like he also had
that's
one point of
exactly
armor too. Yeah,
I didn't even notice if it had armor or not.
it surprisingly did. I don't know if it was it's double Zeta, and I think it was using its main, and it had one point of armor that stuffed the hit before getting hit with everything else. So that's an interesting
Alright.
property.
I think I mentioned this before in passing, but in regular form, Age of X's 2B is also a counter,
Mm-hmm.
which again helps with its prickly self-defense nature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, with what you're telling me, this is kind of reminding me of Turn X a little bit in regards to your partner. Me personally, I feel that Turn X is not strong enough on its own to warrant a back player that can pick whatever the hell suit they want. It sounds like what you're telling me that there's going to be some clear preferences on your backs. So that was going to be my next question, actually. What suit or cost range would you prefer as a back for?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of experience playing Team Hold with the Age of X because the only opportunity I got was the closed beta. So I'm
Mhm.
not
Fair.
super familiar on what specific suits I'd like to be playing with the suit. However, I do know cost range, and that would be 2.5k.
You definitely want a 2.5 with him.
Yeah, a 2.5 that can make plays. So something not like Keradim. Something that when I'm in regular FX mode, I am able to kind of do my shooty thing and have my partner not be crippled about the fact that I'm not going and shanking the nearest person to me. But on the other hand, like I mentioned, I looked at the wiki and I saw they had a very interesting idea for a team comp that can work. I mentioned the prickly self-defense nature of Age of X, and that can work if you have a 1.5k partner. They specifically mention Rigazi
Oh.
as a specific team comp of Age of X Rigazi, where you just go 1 life Age of X, you never die, and you let that Rigazi go in and just cause as much havoc as possible, while you kind of shoot from the back, make sure nobody touches you because of all your defense buttons, and support the plane that's flying around shooting people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rigazi is extremely good in Max Busan, so you can pretty much let that thing terrorize for the entire match.
Yeah, and then if just so happens that things went a little south, and maybe by the second or third life of your Rigazi, you ended up getting hit, you're down to yellow life. Well, now you have FX Burst. So you can maybe give the Rigazi your shield if you get that point. You can go in and get one person out of the way with a melee combo to let the other person get shot by the Rigazi. You got all kinds of options on that end. And then another team comp with a similar playstyle that I noticed is with the Susano, where basically it's identical playstyle. You just use 3 Transams from the Susano. You just give it 3 lives and just let it go in and terrorize people, while the HFX sits back and almost plays like a 3K back.
That's actually pretty interesting. Okay, actually, when I'm looking at the match video, I wouldn't have thought that it was going to be able to really play a 30K back style. That's actually pretty cool. What would you say is the main weakness of the suit? You mentioned that its melee is not exactly great in its normal mode.
Yeah, I'd say its weakness is its normal mode. When it's in its normal mode, it can be bullied fairly easily if you're not experienced with the suit. Like I said, it's got a lot of good self-defense buttons, but you gotta know how to use them. Another big concern that even the wiki brought up is you can just be ignored. If you're in regular mode, they can just ignore you if you're not trying to be proactive enough with your plays. The suit doesn't have very many flashy buttons. Its regular assist is a Garaby that shoots some very, very strongly tracked missiles that can be very annoying and can actually cause a lot of issues for the enemy team. But with good stepping and good situational awareness, the HFX is fairly ignorable if they decide to do that.
For lack of a better term, a loud back.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put that. Is the HFX prefers a very loud back.
Okay, makes sense as to why you did not share it in the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
But Regazi can be pretty loud and obnoxious, and then you have another suit that is basically move around. So okay, so one more question then. How about a melee?
I think a melee suit can work. I think actually the build I mentioned of the give the Susa 3 lives is actually pretty similar to that, where I guess a balanced melee build wouldn't be let your partner go and take 3 lives, but you can use that similar sort of a strategy in a match with a more balanced life alternation, I'd say, because especially when you get into FX burst, your combos can occupy a person for quite a while. So if you have one person already being meleeed, you just go melee the other person, and then now they're both locked down. I think it definitely can work having a melee back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 3 asks a question. How did it fare against more aggressive shooters like Nightingale?
Yeah, like I mentioned, EXS was another fairly terrible example of what happens when you go against a shooty suit. It doesn't fare very well versus shooty suits unless it's in FX burst, because, like I mentioned, the shot-guarded melee, it doesn't go very far. And that's basically all you have in terms of protection from guns when you're in regular FX mode.
Mm-hmm.
As for how you'd go about it and how you go about the matchup and trying to leverage it, at this point, the best I could say is get good, because I don't know. You have to outplay them at that point because they've just got better guns than you, and if you can't outplay them, you just have to hope that you can outplay them once you get an FX burst.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, I have one more. So going with that, I want to make sure I understood you properly.
Sure.
You mentioned that the HFX can give a partner a shield.
Yes, so that the FX burst shield that with the very long recharge time that I mentioned, if you
Mhm.
just hold a direction, so be it forward, back, side, left, right, doesn't matter. If you do that, it'll give it to your partner instead of putting it on yourself.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And another question
Alright.
from 3. Do you feel confident in FX burst against a unit like Bale or Full Saber in a melee fight?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there may even be a match versus Bile in the 3 that I sent. I'm not certain.
Yes, there
But
was one. It was in the first match.
yeah, I didn't notice much of an issue in the Bile matchup because I may have kind of just standard guns, but I still have guns, which is something the Bile doesn't like. In FX Burst, I still also have a gun, which again, Bile doesn't like. So really just shot confirming into melee, Like main into boost dash melee on Bile works perfectly fine. Keeping a good distance away from Bile also fine. I think even in the video that I sent, when I'm in regular mode, the Bile's coming after me. I just sit there and counter twice because there's nothing much the Bile can do to a counter.
Going by what you're telling me, it sounds like this suit um doesn't sound very beginner friendly to me. This suit sounds like a suit that can be very good, but you need to have an understanding of the game, and you also need to have situational awareness to be able to do good with this. Would that be correct?
No, you know what? You're totally right. I think my full boost, my experience from playing all the way since full boost, I'm thinking, this suit's easy, right? I learned this pretty quickly. But no, what you just said, I think, is actually completely correct. The suit does require a fairly large amount of situational awareness in order to use its tools properly. So, yeah, I guess I could retract what I said before. Maybe it's not an easy suit to learn. It's easy to learn its buttons, but not easy to learn how to play it.
I mean, I think, well, the game is easy enough to pick up, but I guess the term I was looking for was more, you can't, this suit isn't exactly a suit that you can just go in with blindly. You do have to have, you do have to know what you're doing. So this is one of those suits where it's more demanding on the player. But no, yeah, it wouldn't be beginner friendly.
Yeah, okay, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. I agree.
Oh wait, Greenboard said something. If you use F burst, you can unga bunga. Would you say that's true?
Oh, absolutely, because like I mentioned, when you burst, you immediately go into FX burst. So F burst, FX mode, your melee combos are going to do just absolutely absurd damage. And you're going to be so insanely fast. You'll be very much a force to be reckoned with a F bursted FX.
Okay. And that actually brings up one more question after. When you go into FX burst, is there a startup animation or anything like that?
Yes, there is. And, there may be an example of it in the 3 matches. I'm not certain.
Okay.
But you are invincible during the transformation, like Unicorn and Banshee. So if you are in white health when you're getting melee comboed and the melee combo brings you down to yellow health, if you just kind of lay on the ground while someone's trying to sit there and Oki you, just kind of slow get up as normal, and then as soon as you get up, as soon as you're able to, you'll do the transformation, so the entire time of you getting up and the transformation is all invincible. And most people don't realize that, so I'll just get a free melee combo right after because they're trying to melee me while getting up, and I'm invincible.
And I guess my question is this one. For both modes, what would you say would be its go-to buttons where it could be a bit of a bully, so to speak?
Okay, in regular mode, it's CSA. I think in all 3 of those matches, I am hitting CSA at an almost constant basis. I'm almost always charging that if I'm not just firing my main. It's free, there's no ammo to it, it's a fairly fast charge time, it's a big beam, it travels fairly quickly, it's fairly consistent. I think it's probably regular FX's best button. Easy. So just kind of alternating that with just main shots here and there, and kind of putting out your funnels, which actually I can talk a little bit about the funnels. In the match videos, I typically use the funnels as a lot of movement control. Its fast fall is the funnels, so you could use it just for that as the fast fall. But I like to kind of, put a couple shots out and then end with just a set of funnels. If they move as they should be and move kind of away from what I'm doing, they won't get hit. If they fuck up, or they stop their movement, or they overheated, they're going to get hit by the C funnels, and I'm able to pick up on that. There is actually, I know that there's a clip in one of the matches, and I wish I could point it out and tell you where it is, where I'm kind of moving horizontally with another suit, and I throw out some funnels, just kind of control its movement, and then he lands next to a building, I think probably because he was out of boost, and then the funnels eventually slowly caught up to him and ended up hitting him, and the rest of the game he didn't get hit by them, but that one time that I did it, it's like, it shows me like, hey, maybe that actually works as a strategy to kind of just, even if they're not landing hits, just throwing them out there to make sure people are moving is sometimes more than enough.
3P asked a question, do MG units beat out FX burst?
No. If You're being dashed at. If you the AC dash on the FX burst is the shot guarded dash. If you're being dashed at and you just kind of hold down your machine gun at the thing that's running at you, it's just all going to get sucked up and you're going to get hit. The machine guns will not save you from the FX burst dash.
Oh.
All right, so let me see. Green Boy said that he feels that the Age FX isn't easy to play. So, but I want to be clear. More than before, I should have mentioned that before. This is me asking in case of opinion. Like in my opinion, it sounds like this isn't a suit that you'll be able to win with easily and be derp with. Like when I'm talking about derp, I'm talking about like in comparison to, let's say, full boost, or I'm talking like full armor unicorn, which is pretty easy mode, or blitz or sandrock. I'm talking about like easy mode like that. I feel like this suit you actually have to use your brain at least a little bit and have a good understanding about the suit, as opposed to where like with suits like sandrock or whatever, it's just just do this and you're fine.
Yeah, because I think what you mentioned about all those suits is those suits have very powerful tools and tools that are very immediately present to be powerful. Like you can just hit it and see, wow, yeah, I can see why this is strong. The Age FX doesn't have really many of those buttons. When you get an FX burst, yeah, some of its buttons seem like, oh yeah, that seems pretty good. But again, that's a late stage of the game, low life total burst mode. So of course you'd be pretty good during that time. All of the regular mode buttons aren't very impactful. They aren't very flashy. They aren't doing a whole lot of different or powerful stuff. They're just kind of solid buttons that have set uses for when you need to be using them in those situations. So, yeah, for someone like me who's been playing the suit since 2017, I might say, yeah, that suit seems easy to play, but there's definitely room for Densuo to come in and say, yeah, no, actually, from what you're saying, this suit doesn't seem very easy. It requires a lot of thought that I've already kind of come accustomed to that I don't actively think about. It's sort of just become secondhand nature to me.
Well, I think we probably covered quite a bit with Age FX. Don't you guys agree?
Oh yeah.
Yep.